Welcome, deep divers. I've got a challenge for you today. Something that, well, it connects directly to your future, your success in the business world. Here it is. Can you name a single job in a company, any company bigger than just a few people that doesn't deeply rely on information systems? Just think about it for a sec. Tracking sales, managing inventory, customer communication, even just scheduling meetings. Information systems are just everywhere. It's actually harder to find a role without them, isn't it? That ubiquity, that inescapable presence, that's your connection. That's why today's deep dive is so vital. Today, we're diving headfirst into the fascinating and honestly foundational world of management information systems, MIS. And look, this isn't just about understanding tech. Our mission here for this deep dive is to give you a powerful shortcut. We want you to get a crystal clear understanding of what MIS really is, its basic parts, its huge, often kind of understated impact on business strategy, and the critical future-proof skills you'll build by mastering it. We're going to do this not with like dry definitions, but through engaging stories, maybe some surprising facts, real-world examples that actually stick. Think of this as your essential guide, your roadmap to navigating the digital backbone of modern business.
And that's exactly the point. You hit it right there. What's really key here is that MIS isn't just about the latest gadgets or software, not at all. It's about understanding this intricate dance of how information drives, well, every single aspect of modern organizations. Think of it like the central nervous system of a business. It's channeling insights, enabling action. And that makes it absolutely crucial for every future business professional. I don't care if your passion is marketing, finance, operations, HR, it doesn't matter. We're going to uncover some real aha moments today, I think. Insights that will have immediate practical relevance for your studies and, more importantly, your whole career path. Get ready to maybe rethink how businesses actually run.
Okay, so let's unpack this core idea, management information systems. We've been saying MIS, but what is it really? At its heart, MIS is about the purposeful integration of four key things: people, processes, data, and technology. And technology includes both software and hardware. They're all working together in concert to manage information inside an organization. It's not just a pile of parts, it's a dynamic system designed to turn raw data into, well, intelligence you can act on. Let's maybe break those down a bit more, those foundational elements, because understanding what each part does and crucially how they work together, their synergy is critical. So people, that's everyone involved, right? From the frontline folks carefully typing in data to managers making strategic calls based on reports, all the way up to the IT pros designing and keeping the whole complex thing running. The human element is the ultimate user, the enabler and the beneficiary of MIS. Then processes. These are the structured workflows, the set activities and procedures that define how work actually gets done. The step-by-step for fulfilling an order or onboarding a new hire or closing the books each month. These procedures dictate the flow. Data, that's the raw material, the lifeblood. Facts, figures, observations collected from all over the business. And finally, technology. That gives you the tools. Hardware is the physical stuff, servers, computers, network gear. Software is the programs, the apps, the operating systems running on that hardware, processing the data, doing the business logic. It's the engine room, basically.
That's a perfect way to put it. And we connect that to the bigger picture. The main purpose of MIS is, well, it sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's about consistently getting the right information to the right people at the right time. Now, that's not just a nice to have, it's the bedrock of effective organizational function. Just imagine a business where critical data isn't available, or arrives too late, or goes to the wrong department entirely. It'd be chaos, right? MIS makes sure executives get the sales forecast they need for planning. It ensures production managers have real-time inventory levels to optimize manufacturing. It lets customer service reps pull up a full customer history instantly to solve a problem. This access to timely, accurate info enables informed decision-making everywhere, from the top floor strategy sessions down to the daily grind on the front lines, and it supports efficient operations. That means less waste, fewer mistakes, much smoother workflows, all leading to a more agile, responsive business. But it goes beyond just keeping things running smoothly. MIS plays this crucial and often really underestimated strategic role. It's about tying information technology directly to the organization's big picture goals, its business objectives, its strategy. This means, fundamentally, MIS is not technology for technology's sake. You don't just buy a new system because it's shiny. Companies invest because it's a strategic tool. It's meant to achieve specific business outcomes. Maybe cut costs, improve customer service, enter a new market, make their product stand out. A well-thought-out MIS strategy can actually unlock competitive advantages. It lets companies outsmart rivals by offering better products, maybe optimizing their supply chains, or understanding their customers way more deeply. Without that clear strategic link, even the most advanced tech can just become a really expensive paperweight. It fails to deliver real value. It must serve a strategic purpose.
Okay. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Why should you care about this for your studies, for your future career? Well, getting MIS is absolutely foundational for success in pretty much any modern business role because it's the invisible backbone. It's essential for efficiency, communication, and solid strategic planning in almost any company you can think of. I mean, seriously, how could a global company track millions of items without a sophisticated system? How could they talk instantly across continents without integrated platforms? How could they plan for what the market's going to do next without data-driven insights? The simple answer is they couldn't. MIS provides that underlying structure, that nervous system. It allows businesses to run effectively, communicate smoothly inside and out, and plan for the future with confidence. This isn't some niche IT thing, it's really a universal business language you need to speak. Right, so to really get our heads around this, to move past just definitions, we need a good mental model, a framework to help us see how MIS actually works. And that's where the 5-component framework comes in. Super helpful. A minute ago, I mentioned those 4 core elements: people, processes, data, and technology. This framework just tweaks it slightly, explicitly splitting technology into its 2 key parts: hardware and software. So boom, our 5 components are people, process, data, hardware, and software. Easy enough to remember. But here's the absolute key thing to grasp. MIS doesn't work like a bunch of separate bits. It functions as a truly cohesive, integrated system. These 5 components are deeply connected, intertwined, like the gears in a really complex watch. And they absolutely must operate in sync to get consistent, meaningful results. If even one gear is off, if one component isn't doing its job right, the whole system can just grind to a halt. That leads to inefficiency, errors, and ultimately you fail to meet your business goals. It's this delicate balance, this mutual dependency that we really need to dig into.
Exactly. Let's take a deeper dive into each of those components, because understanding their individual roles, and just as importantly, how they constantly interact, well, that's the key to truly leveraging MIS effectively. Okay, first up, people. These are the humans in the loop. Everyone from the frontline employees carefully keying in data to the middle managers making daily operational calls based on system reports, right up to the senior execs setting strategy based on those high-level MIS dashboards. But people are more than just users. They're critical drivers of MIS success. They don't just consume the output. They define what's needed in new systems. They give essential feedback for improvements. They guide how existing tools evolve. However, this human element, it brings complexities, right? Effective MIS leans heavily on correct user adoption. This means a successful rollout isn't just about the tech. It needs solid training programs. It needs the system to be easy, intuitive to use. It needs a positive culture that actually embraces change. And crucially, strong, visible support from management.
Without those things, you often get user resistance, powerful tools sitting unused, and you just don't get the benefits you paid for. The digital skills and adaptability of your people, they directly impact the success of the whole information system. Okay, next, let's dive into process, often called procedures. These are the defined workflows, the systematic activities, the steps that an MIS either supports or, more and more, automates. Think about a complex business operation, like fulfilling a customer order. From the moment the order comes in, checking inventory, processing payment, picking it in the warehouse, packing, shipping, confirming delivery. Each one of those steps is part of a process. These procedures dictate how tasks are done, who does them, and critically, how data flows between stages. They ensure consistency, correctness, compliance every single time. Well-designed processes. They're the foundation of efficiency. They streamline work by automating routine stuff. They enforce vital business rules like, running a credit check before shipping. And they drastically cut down on manual errors. Now, here's a crucial point, often missed. If your underlying business processes are messy, inefficient, redundant, unclear, even the fanciest, most expensive technology won't deliver value. Automating a bad process just makes you do the wrong thing faster. Successful MIS absolutely demands optimized, well-defined business processes to really work effectively and have that strategic impact. This is often where, business process re-engineering comes into play. Then we get to data. Now, data often gets talked about within processes or tech, but it's so central, so fundamental, it absolutely deserves its own focus. Data is, without question, the lifeblood of any MIS. It's constantly flowing through the systems, collected from tons of sources: customer purchases, sensor readings, social media, financial records, you name it. This raw data is then processed according to those defined procedures. It's transformed, and then it's shared as valuable information with the right people. Data is the raw material that, once you organize and analyze it, turns into intelligence for making smart decisions. Without good data, accurate, relevant, consistent, timely, the whole system is basically useless. It just can't deliver that right information to the right people at the right time. And think about the challenges here. Ensuring data quality, setting up solid data governance, like who owns the data, who can access it, what are the standards, and just managing the sheer volume and speed of data coming in. These are huge tasks. They can make or break an MIS. And finally, we land on technology, which, as we said, we break into hardware and software. So hardware, that's the physical gear providing the computing power and connectivity. Everything from the big service holding company databases to your individual computer, the complex networking stuff linking it all, and the storage devices where the data actually lives. This is the physical infrastructure, the tangible backbone. It lets your data exist and your applications run. And the importance of reliable, scalable hardware, whether it's in your own building or in the cloud, you just can't overstate it. Software, on the other hand, that's the programs, the applications, the operating systems running on the hardware. This is the intelligent layer. It includes everything from the basic operating systems managing the hardware itself, to database management systems organizing the data, to huge enterprise resource planning, or ERP systems. ERPs try to integrate all the core business processes, finance, manufacturing, HR, supply chain, into one unified system. Big undertaking. Software also includes things like customer relationship management, CRM, tools for sales and marketing, supply chain management, SCM apps for logistics, and all sorts of specialized interfaces that process data and perform the specific tasks needed to run the business. This software platform is what takes the raw data, applies the defined processes, and generates the information that people actually use. Together, the hardware and software create the technological platform, basically the MIS engine that executes the processes and moves the data around. It's the infrastructure that lets people input data, automates complex steps, and distributes vital information throughout the company. A reliable, secure, high-performing tech infrastructure that means fast networks, up-to-date hardware, well-designed, scalable software, it's absolutely essential. Just imagine the disaster if a company's core systems go down because of a hardware failure, or they suffer a major security breach and sensitive data gets out. Events like that can cripple a business, massive financial losses, serious damage to reputation, even legal trouble. The whole fabric of modern business really relies on the stability and security of this tech foundation.
Absolutely. And what's really illuminating here, I think, is the deep, intricate interdependence of all these components. It's not just, a box of parts you plug together. It's genuinely a unified living system. Think about it in action. People use the technology tools, the hardware, and software to perform specific processes. And as they do those processes, they're either entering new data, checking existing data, or pulling out critical information. And each action follows a predefined process step that's supported, enabled by the MIS. This mutual impact, it means that a big change in just one element always ripples through and affects the others, often in ways you didn't expect. Like, say a company rolls out some fancy new software for its sales team. It's never just a tech upgrade. It immediately means you need extensive training for the people using it. It often requires rethinking and updating existing sales processes to really take advantage of the new features. And it impacts how data is captured, stored, analyzed. Maybe you need new rules around that data. All five elements, people, process, data, hardware, software, they have to align and evolve together for the MIS to work effectively and for the company to get the strategic value it's looking for. This is where it gets really interesting. It's this synergy, this perfect sync up of all five parts that ultimately makes MIS such an incredibly powerful strategic tool for business success. It creates something much bigger than just the sum of its parts, right? That deep interdependence, the need for everything to work in sync. It really comes alive when you look at how actual businesses operate. Let's talk MIS in the real world. Move from concepts to concrete examples that shape our daily lives. Think about Amazon's e-commerce platform. It's not just a website, right? It's an unbelievably complex MIS. It's meticulously tracking millions of items in huge warehouses, processing millions of orders every day with algorithms figuring out routing, picking, packing, shipping. And it's constantly analyzing customer data with sophisticated recommendation engines suggesting your next buy before you even know you want it. Or take FedEx Logistics. That's an absolute masterclass in supply chain MIS. Monitoring millions of shipments globally in real time. Managing incredibly complex delivery routes with dynamic optimization, coordinating package sorting in massive hubs, all to make sure packages get there exactly when and where they should. Then there's Tesla manufacturing. They use MIS to coordinate highly automated production schedules, monitor every bit of equipment performance on the factory floor robots, assembly lines, and ensure super tight quality control using sensor data. In healthcare, a critical field, the Mayo Clinic healthcare system uses sophisticated MIS to securely store huge amounts of sensitive patient records, support complex diagnostics by pulling together lab results and imaging, and enable secure data sharing among doctors, all while meeting strict privacy rules. And hey, if you're just chilling, watching your favorite show on Disney Plus streaming, that's another powerful MIS at work. Constantly analyzing viewing habits, recommending personalized content, seamlessly managing millions of subscriptions and billing cycles globally. What's really profound here is that even though these businesses are so incredibly different, retail, logistics, cars, healthcare, entertainment, they all rely heavily on sophisticated management information systems. It defines their core operations, drives their strategy, delivers their value. But here's a critical question, often overlooked, that goes beyond just the tech. Who truly owns these complex systems inside a company? Who's ultimately accountable?
That's a huge question, and it brings me to a really powerful story from my own past. A story that fundamentally shifted how I thought about system ownership and accountability. Years ago, I was working at Cargill, massive global company, over 100 billion in operations. My role was IT enterprise architect for finance systems. So I was constantly working with senior finance leaders all over the world, and I got this front row seat to how mindset, just your way of thinking, profoundly shapes success with technology. On one side, you had the accounting team at Cargill, and they really truly got it. Their mindset was crystal clear. These are our systems. Yes, they partnered super closely with IT, absolutely, but they took genuine, unwavering ownership. They knew they owned their financial data. They deeply understood and meticulously managed their financial processes. And they didn't just see tech as a tool. They saw it as a strategic asset, integral to what they did. The results, they spoke for themselves. Consistently faster month-end closes, better, more insightful reporting that provided real strategic intelligence, and ultimately, they enabled smarter, data-driven decisions across the whole company. They were winning, not just operationally, but strategically. Now, the tax department, on the other hand, they started out with a very different viewpoint. Their mindset initially was kind of, we just do taxes, IT handles the system. They saw the technology as IT's problem, separate from their core job. And because of that hands-off approach, critical projects to modernize their tax systems just stalled over and over. Their capabilities lagged way behind what they actually needed in a complex global environment. And frankly, they just weren't getting the results or the compliance they should have been. They saw tech as a service provided to them, not an extension of their own duties. Then came the wake-up call. And it was a big one, a profoundly costly one, a staggering $50 million fine in South America because of incorrect tax processing. This wasn't some small error. It was a massive hit to the bottom line, a big blow to their reputation, a serious compliance failure. The company faced regulatory heat, operational disruption. The CEO's response to this crisis was really telling, and it holds the core lesson of this whole story. He didn't blame IT for the system failure. Instead, he held the tax department directly and solely accountable. His message was blunt, unequivocal. You own taxes globally, and not knowing, not understanding, not properly managing your own systems, that was no excuse for this failure. After that, everything changed. The vice president of tax, understanding the seriousness, the clear message from the top, leaned in completely. They started partnering proactively, deeply, strategically with IT. And crucially, they adopted that same ownership mindset the accounting team had. They embraced the responsibility for their systems, their data, their processes. They got hands-on, learned the system's details, became active players in improving it. And once they did that, once they truly took responsibility for their systems, the data in them, the processes they enabled, they started to win. Compliance got better, efficiency went up. They transformed from being reactive to proactive, a strategic partner. The lesson is simple to say, but it's profound in its implications, and it applies to every single one of you listening, no matter what your future job or field is. You own your systems, the data, the process, and ultimately the outcome. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's a fundamental truth for navigating the modern business world.
So, what does this all boil down to for you? The future business leader sitting there right now, about to launch your career, it means that whether you end up in finance, marketing, supply chain, HR, whatever, you cannot, absolutely cannot, just delegate your basic understanding and ownership of the systems that run your part of the shop. You will be held accountable, not just for the output, but for the integrity of the data, the efficiency of the processes, the strategic results that flow through those systems. The Cargill story isn't just some anecdote about a huge company. It's a direct warning and an empowering lesson. It highlights the absolute need for every business professional to be fluent in MIS. Not just as a passive user, but as an active owner, a strategic partner, a guardian of your domain's digital infrastructure. Your future success and your company's success really depends on it. Yeah, that Cargill story is a fantastic reminder. The human element, process alignment, totally critical. But But none of these incredibly complex systems, none of this massive digital transformation we've been talking about, none of it would even be remotely possible without this incredible, underlying, almost relentless force of technological progress. To really illustrate this, let's do a little time travel. Let's go way back to 1956, just to appreciate how far we've actually come. Picture this. A 1956 IBM hard drive. Forget sleek little things you put in your pocket. This thing was a monster, a leviathan. It weighed almost a ton of 2,000 pounds, so massive, so delicate, you needed special trucks or even planes to move it, forklifted into climate-controlled rooms. And the cost. A staggering $160,000 back then, which, adjust for inflation, that's about $1.3 million in today's money. And what did this million-dollar ton-heavy beast get you? A laughably small 5 megabytes of storage. To put that in perspective, maybe one low-quality MP3 song, about 66 plain text emails, maybe 2 or 3 grainy photos from a modern phone, or just 5 simple spreadsheets. 5, that was state-of-the-art digital storage. Okay, now zap forward to today. Or maybe look ahead slightly to a typical 64-gigabyte thumb drive you might just casually toss in your bag in 2025. This tiny, cheap little device offers an astronomical 12,800 times more storage than that 1956 monster. It's about 100,000 times lighter, and unbelievably, it's roughly 260,000 times cheaper in today's dollars. Think about the sheer impact. We went from storing one song to a whole music library you carry around, from seconds of a blurry movie to a whole movie marathon in high def, from 5 spreadsheets to, well, storing 64,000 spreadsheets, each potentially massive. It's a truly mind-bending leap, almost beyond comprehension.
That stark contrast, right? This almost miraculous explosion in capability alongside a total collapse in cost. It raises a really important question. What exactly happened between 1956 and, say, 2025 to create such a staggering difference, such a relentless march of progress? The answer, in large part, boils down to Moore's Law. So let's talk about the man behind it, Gordon Moore, brilliant engineer, co-founder of Intel, one of the world's biggest semiconductor companies. Back in 1965, he noticed this remarkable trend. It was still the early days of integrated circuits. And this trend, he observed, it basically shaped the entire future of computing and really the modern world. What he saw, what became known as Moore's Law, was this. The number of transistors you could cram onto a square inch of an integrated chip was doubling approximately every 18 to 24 months. And crucially, at the same time, the cost per transistor was dropping. Now, okay, the physical limits of silicon mean the pace has slowed a bit recently, maybe closer to 2 years now. But the principle of exponential growth held incredibly true for decades. It drove an unprecedented era of tech advancement. To give you a real sense of this computational power jump, imagine in 1970, you could fit, say, 1,000 transistors on a tiny chip. By 2020, thanks to Moore's Law, you were looking at chips with over 50 billion transistors. That's an increase in raw computing power of 50 million times. It's staggering. This isn't linear growth, adding a fixed amount each year. It's exponential. It compounds on itself, builds on previous gains at an accelerating rate. Think of it like folding paper, fold it 50 times, it reaches the sun. That's exponential power. Tech companies, chip makers, software developers, they use Moore's Law as a fundamental guide. They forecast performance improvements, plan product cycles years ahead, drive constant innovation in hardware and software. It's like a North Star for the industry. So why does this matter so much to you as future business leaders? Because this exponential growth, that's exactly what fueled the entire information age. It transformed technology from something only governments and huge corporations could afford into something that's consistently faster, cheaper, smaller, and vastly more powerful and accessible to literally everyone. It's what allowed us to go from that one song on a multi-million-dollar ton-heavy drive to carrying a whole digital universe in our pockets. It enabled the cloud computing revolution, smartphones everywhere, powerful analytics tools. And yet, while the physical limits of silicon are being tested, Moore's Law still shapes our expectations for progress in computing, AI, the digital infrastructure under all modern MIS. It set the pace, the expectation. More, faster, cheaper.
And to really bring Moore's Law down to earth, show how it touches something as personal as our daily habits. Let's look at a specific example. How the Kindle transformed reading. I remember a time before Kindle, really not that long ago, when reading was just different. If I wanted a new book, had to physically drive to a bookstore, hope they had it. If not, order it, wait days, maybe weeks for delivery. Often pay for shipping. Popular books, sold out frequently. Niche stuff, often out of print, impossible to find. And traveling. My bag would be weighed down by heavy paperbacks, carefully chosen, limited by space and weight. Now, with the Kindle or any e-reader really, the experience is totally transformed. I literally have access to thousands, tens of thousands of books in the cloud. Right at my fingertips, new titles appear instantly. One tap. No waiting, no driving, no store needed. Many ebooks cost less than a coffee. I can read across multiple devices, picking up right where I left off: phone, tablet, e-reader, and maybe best of all, no trees cut down, no trucks burning fuel for delivery, no giant warehouses full of physical books. This incredible shift, this quiet revolution in how we get literature, access knowledge. It's a direct, tangible result of technology, specifically the relentless power of Moore's Law. It made the guts, microprocessors, memory, wireless chips so incredibly cheap and powerful they could fit into lightweight, portable devices. That allowed entire libraries to fit in something the size of a paperback or even just on your phone. It completely disrupted publishing and distribution. Books are now sold, shared, updated digitally in ways totally unimaginable just a few decades back. Here's where it gets really interesting. What used to take forests, trucks, staff, warehouses now literally happens in seconds through invisible signals. That's the pervasive power of Moore's Law, constantly shrinking the physical, expanding the possible.
And if we connect this back to the bigger picture for you, our listener, Moore's Law isn't just some abstract tech trend for engineers. It is truly the fundamental engine behind the digital transformation we see absolutely everywhere. It's what enabled those sophisticated MIS solutions we talked about earlier, the Amazons, FedExes, Teslas, to become so pervasive, so powerful, so deeply woven into the fabric of our lives and businesses. It continually redefines what's possible, pushes the boundaries of what information systems can do, making them more affordable, more powerful, more ubiquitous, year after year. It's the silent force creating the very landscape you'll navigate as future business leaders.
Okay, all this talk of complex systems, global operations, exponential tech growth, multi-million-dollar fines, it can sound a bit daunting, maybe, a little overwhelming, but it really shouldn't be, because your journey through understanding MIS, it doesn't just inform you, it equips you with an incredibly valuable, future-proof skill set. So what are the critical non-routine skills you will learn and apply in this fast-changing, MIS-driven world? Skills that make you truly indispensable.
That's a perfect transition. Because beyond just knowing about hardware and software, diving deep into MIS really sharpens 4 essential non-routine skills. These are highly prized, often scarce, across every industry, every job function. And these are not skills that can be easily automated. They're uniquely human. First, abstract reasoning. This is your ability to make and manipulate models, to take complex, messy, real-world stuff and simplify it into logical structures you can understand, analyze, optimize. Think about creating a data model showing all the connections between customers, products, sales, or drawing a process map for a supply chain to find bottlenecks. It's about moving from specific details to underlying patterns and structures, a crucial skill for problem solving and planning in any data-rich environment. Second, systems thinking. This is the invaluable knack for seeing the whole picture, not just the separate parts. It's understanding how different components, people, processes, data, tech, interact, influence, and depend on each other in a bigger system. A great example. Really understanding how a company like Uber works. It's not just an app, right? It's a complex, interconnected system, linking riders, drivers, handling secure payments, using sophisticated mapping and GPS, managing dynamic pricing, navigating complex local regulations. Systems thinking lets you grasp that whole ecosystem, predict the ripple effects of changes, find the best places to intervene for improvement. Third is collaboration. In today's connected world, almost nothing significant gets done alone. Collaboration in MIS means a whole range of things: educating colleagues on system capabilities, persuading stakeholders on best practices for data or process, skillfully planning and leading complex discussions about system needs with diverse teams, and giving critical, constructive feedback on system designs, rollouts, proposed changes. Think back to the Cargill story. Those critical, probably tough discussions with the tax team to help them understand their systems, take ownership, fix the issues. That's collaboration in action, bridging those functional and technical gaps. And finally, experimentation. This is about moving beyond just watching. It's conducting careful analysis, then envisioning potential new products, innovative solutions, novel ways to use technology. It's the mindset of trying things out, testing ideas, learning quickly from what works and what doesn't, and iterating to improve. I actually have a personal story here. Back in 1995 at IBM, I got put on a team to configure a brand new SAP system. Cutting-edge ERP back then, the catch. No formal training available. No comprehensive manual for our implementation. Absolutely no experienced person on the team to guide us. It was totally sink or swim. I just had to figure it out. Experiment. I try a configuration, see what happened, analyze the result, guess why it worked or didn't, and then iterate, try something else. That hands-on problem-solving journey, that was prime experimentation skill building under pressure. Taught me more than any book could. It's about building resilience, a proactive approach to learning.
What's really compelling here is how these 4 skills, abstract reasoning, systems thinking, collaboration, experimentation, they aren't just theoretical concepts for class. They are directly, powerfully applicable to pretty much every single role you might pursue in business. Which brings us right back to that initial challenge I threw out. There is truly no role in a modern company bigger than a handful of people that doesn't extensively use and depend on information systems. That's not hyperbole, it's just the reality of today's digital economy. Think about it across different jobs. An accountant, they're not just using spreadsheets. They're navigating complex ERP systems for ledgers, reporting, compliance, budget analysis, data integrity in those systems, crucial for accurate financials. Someone in purchasing, using sophisticated SCM systems to track orders, manage vendors, negotiate contracts, optimize inventory, avoid stockouts or having too much stuff. Manufacturing managers, relying heavily on production control systems, maybe linked to IoT devices to run assembly lines, monitor equipment, schedule maintenance, ensure quality control. Human resources, HR folks, using HCM systems for everything. Payroll, benefits, recruiting, onboarding, performance reviews, workforce analytics. Sales pros. They live inside CRM systems, managing leads, tracking interactions, forecasting sales, personalizing messages, even plant maintenance teams. Using specialized CMMS systems to schedule repairs, track equipment history, manage spare parts, keep critical machines running. So why do all these different professionals need this deep MIS knowledge? Because they need to effectively use the specific systems that run their function, often becoming power users. They need to understand how to manage and interpret the huge amounts of data flowing through those systems, turn it into actual insights. They have to be able to make informed, data-driven decisions with that information, move past just gut feel. They're directly responsible for making sure data is protected, secure, meeting privacy rules. And critically, they're often involved in identifying needs, defining requirements, and implementing the best systems for their own departments. They're the bridge between what the business needs and what the technology can do.
Exactly. And this just reinforces that fundamental truth. The core mission of MIS is always to enable strategy, not just implement tech for tech's sake. Every single MIS system, every big IT investment must directly support and advance the organization's strategic business objectives. It's never about just following the crowd, oh, everyone else is doing it, so we should too. No. The question is always, how does this technology help us achieve our specific strategic goals? And what's really powerful is that MIS can be tailored to support incredibly diverse strategies, even ones that seem contradictory. Maybe a company uses bleeding-edge tech to disrupt a market. Or maybe they stick with older, stable tech to cut risk. Maybe they go for a high-cost, white-glove premium service. Or maybe low-cost, super-efficient operations. Maybe they offer complex, customizable solutions. Or simple, standardized products. The right MIS solution always depends on its precise strategic alignment. It's not about finding the fanciest tech. It's about finding the tech that best serves the company's chosen path and helps it win in its unique way. And this leads us right to your career relevance and future job growth.
The numbers here are incredibly compelling. IS jobs have just exploded over the last 25 years, from under 500,000 to over 2 million now. And that trend isn't slowing down. In fact, the anticipated growth for IS jobs in the next 5 years, it actually exceeds the forecasts for job growth across all non-IS jobs combined. What does that mean? It means there are plentiful and consistently high-paying jobs available across a huge range of roles. For business professionals like you who know how to use information systems effectively, to improve business processes, interpret complex data mining results for better marketing, leverage emerging tech like AI and cloud for new products or markets, the world desperately needs people who can bridge that gap between business needs and tech solutions. And that's exactly what MIS prepares you to do.
So what's the bottom line here for you? As you're starting your business education, prepping for your career. Simply put, MIS isn't just another class. It is genuinely one of the most important, most foundational courses you will take. It teaches you how to assess, analyze, and strategically apply emerging information tech to solve real business problems. And maybe most importantly, it gives you invaluable job security, makes you highly marketable through those non-routine skills we talked about. Abstract reasoning, systems thinking, collaboration, experimentation, these aren't just buzzwords. They are the superpowers of the modern business professional. They equip you not just to adapt, but to innovate and lead in an increasingly digital world. Hashtag tag outro. Wow. What an incredible, really expansive journey we've taken today through the digital landscape of modern business. We started by decoding management information systems, really diving into its 5 key components: people, processes, data, hardware, software, and understanding how that intricate synergy creates real, lasting business value. We learned a costly but ultimately powerful lesson from Cargill about the absolute critical importance of system ownership. That $50 million fine really hammered home. You own the data, the process, the outcome, no matter your job title. Then we marveled at the staggering exponential power of Moore's Law, contrasting that ton-heavy 1956 hard drive with a modern thumb drive, seeing how that relentless progress transformed everything from storing info to reading books with Kindle. And finally, we identified those crucial non-routine skills, abstract reasoning, systems thinking, collaboration, experimentation, that will make you not just adaptable, but truly invaluable, capable of driving innovation in this constantly evolving workplace.
And this really brings up an important, maybe even a provocative question for you to think about as future business leaders. As you step into roles that will undeniably rely heavily on sophisticated information systems, how will you leverage your deep understanding of MIS, not just to adapt to the digital world as it is right now, but to actively shape its future, to drive innovation in whatever field you choose? Just take a moment. Think about the systems you interact with every day, your university's registration site, your favorite streaming service, your bank's app, the core systems at your future job. How does the framework we've discussed today apply to them? Understanding these fundamental principles truly gives you the power to see beyond the screen, to grasp the invisible engines of modern business, and ultimately to turn challenges into opportunities.